Hello, welcome to another session of ECE Design video series. Today we're going to be taking a look at CADWorks Plant Professional, and specifically we're going to take a look at the new pipe modeling module that's within Plant Professional. So I've got Plant Pro open here. We're going to work with this skid module. Already have some equipment and steel in this model. We'll take a look at the equipment modeler and the structural steel modeler in another video. Today we're going to focus on the piping module. So first thing I'm going to do here is a feature that's probably little known by the CADWorks community. It's been in CADWorks for some time. It enables me to select a line number from my line number toolbar and then select process drawings, and the system will then prompt me for an access database. This was originally developed for CADWorks PNID, but you don't have to have your PNIDs in CADWorks PNID. All you really have to do is set up a table in an access database with your line numbers, size, and spec for each of those lines, and we can use that information then to select from a list, a line list, to get our settings set within the CAD model. So if I go to F2 here, you'll see that by making that selection, I got my size, my spec, and my line number all set by making that one quick selection. Pretty handy. So we're going to roll in here and do some piping off of this system. We're going to first pipe up the discharge side of these pumps. We're going to come over into this nozzle on this vertical vessel here. So with my size and spec set, I can come in and quickly just select a lift check, for example. In CADWorks, in the new version of CADWorks, we don't have to worry about the UCS, so there's no UCS manipulation required here. My check valve is a directional component, so I want to make sure it's going the right direction, which it is, off the discharge of this pump. If it was not, I could switch to the other end here. But then I want to just hit a node on the nozzle of this piece of equipment. All CADWorks equipment flanges have a nozzle, a node right at the face of the nozzle, so it makes it easy to snap to those. Then I want to put in possibly a ball valve here, so I'm going to select a ball valve from my menu. CADWorks has always had what we call last point routing, so once you place one component, you can select another component and just hit enter to have those components connect. Now there are some piping rules in the new version of CADWorks. CADWorks 2013 and above are what we call self-aware component technology. These components are intelligent, and that enables us to rules drive the piping design. We'll take a look at those rules in a moment. For now, I want to show you that I have a couple of rules turned on. Automatic bolts and gaskets are turned on. So every time I place a component that requires bolts and gaskets, these are coming in automatically directly from the specification. Okay. I also have a rule turn on for auto flanges. So if I want to run piping from this line over into this nozzle, I can do that very easily by selecting a plus grip on this ball valve. Before I do that, I'm going to use just a regular AutoCAD copy command to replicate that piping assembly from this pump to this pump using a common reference point. CADWorks has always allowed you to use standard AutoCAD commands: move, copy, stretch, erase, array, to manipulate the model, and that has not changed in CADWorks since 2013. So we still have those capabilities. This is where things really change, though. In the past, we might run a routing line, a 3D polyline to establish where our piping and elbows were going to go from this point. But in the new system, we have the ability just to simply hit the plus grip, and now we're adding pipe and elbows, and you can see my flange, my bolt set and gasket came in automatically, and the system's waiting for input on which direction to go with my pipe and elbows. Now I could use any AutoCAD commands to go a specific distance. There are also subroutines at the command line that are very much like the 3D polyline router that's been in CADWorks since the beginning. But there's some new options here while we're running pipe and elbows. In particular, this connect option allows me to select now where I want to connect this piping run to, and then I can visualize the different options either as pipe and elbows or as lines, just representative lines of my box routing. So if I select the line option, I get four different routing options here. Now if I want to take a look at one of these as pipe and elbows, I can preview these options just by selecting a line. In this case, CADWorks realizes this is a 4-inch line and a 6-inch nozzle, so it needs a reducer to reduce down at some point. So then it filters the spec and shows me the reducers available for the sizes. So I select the reducer I might want to use, and then I get a preview of that line. If let's say that this might be my normal routing, but if I've got some other equipment that's going to go in the skid below this or above this line or below this line, then I may want to adjust that line upward so I have clearance. So let's take a look at this routing option. Again, it asks me for the reducer I want, and you'll note that since it used a reducer, it doesn't quite follow the proposed routing because it had to push the system out to get that reducer in. When you get the routing option you want, you can just hit enter twice and you're good to go. Now at this point I might want to put a drop in for this secondary pump, this backup pump. So all I have to do is hit the plus grip on this run of pipe, and the system automatically puts in a T. And you notice there's a dimension line in there going to the end of the pipe. We'll take a closer look at that in a moment. What the system's looking for is how to align this T, and all I really have to do is hit a nose snap on the end point of this ball valve to align the T with it. Now I just simply turn the branch the direction I want it to go, and I'll use my connect option again to connect to the ball valve, and this time I'll use the component option instead of the line so you can see the difference here. If I use components, it will give me a preview of a routing, and then the command line option here, the default is the next route. So if I just toggle using enter or space bar, I can toggle between all the different routes that the system can calculate for this routing. When you get the one you want, you just type in F for finish or click on finish here at the command line, and I'm done. So it's that quick and easy. Now you may note that my piping design here is not the best. I've got two 4-inch lines going into a 4-inch header and then reducing at a 6-inch nozzle on the vessel. Probably want this header to be a 6-inch header with two 4-inch drops. So it's quite easy to do in CADWorks. I really kind of did this intentionally to show this feature, the ability to change size. When you change size or change spec, we have both options, and the change spec of course will allow you to change from one rating to another, not just within a rating size, so a rating class. There's two options when you change size or change spec: automatic or manual. Automatic would change the whole line and any branches that you select during the selection process, and manual lets you just select specific components you want to change size on, which is the option we want here for this header. So we'll select our elbow pipe T, this pipe, and this elbow. And once you've selected those items, the system will show you a dialog and show you what size those items are and allow you to select what size you want them to be. So I want to go from 4 to 6, and then the system highlights this T and says, hey, that size is not available. We got to change this component. We can't put a straight T, we'll need a reducing T. Do you want to change it? Yes. It also needs to change out this reducer, so we'll go ahead and change that. And then it needs a reducer over here where the 6-inch elbow will connect to this 4-inch line. So we select the reducer we want to use there. The last option, or the last thing the system asks for when you change size or spec, is to select a component to keep its position, or hit enter to finish. If I had a valve or something in here and this line was going to grow or shrink and I wanted to make sure that valve stayed in the same place, this would be the time to select it. In this case, nothing's going to move because of the way this piping system is configured. So if I just hit enter, now I have a 6-inch header, and it maintained the center line position of this main run. To do that, what the system actually had to do is replace the reducer with a short piece of pipe. That's got a 2.5-inch piece of 6-inch pipe, which I may not want. So it's very quick and easy to make this change. Just select on either pipe in the piping header and grab the grip, and now since I have pipe at every connection point, I can actually stretch this down where it's fitting makeup, or even better, I can hit an object snap on the center line of the steel and have that header directly over that steel so I can support it from underneath off of that wide flange if I like. Okay, well, let's move around here and go to work on the suction side of these pumps. So I'm just going to orbit a little bit so I can see both of these pumps quite easily. And I'm going to go use my tool again to set my line number from process drawings. This line is going to be the 8-inch ASD 613. Now these nozzles on these pumps are 6-inch, but the flange we want to connect to on the bottom of this vessel is an 8-inch flange, and so the line's predominantly going to be 8-inch reduced right at the pumps to 6-inch. This will show off some of the other piping rules, and let's take a look at those real quick. If I go into the CADWorks setup and go into the piping rules section, then I've got a number of options set here. For my size rule, I could turn the rule off. I could have it automatically switch size for me when I go from one size to another, even though I'm set to currently, for example, to 6-inch or to 8-inch. When I select a 6-inch nozzle on the pump, it would automatically change it to 6-inch. I prefer the show option for apply size and apply specification, because often I'm changing sizes, maybe a control valve in a line which is going to drop the line size, or maybe I have a spec break. Also for the line number, I have it showing options because I may change line numbers at a branch connection, and rather than automatically switching it, I like for it to ask me which one I want to go with, and that's the way the show option portion works. Got a number of other rules here. We're not going to take the time in this video to cover them all, but a couple of extra ones to take a look at real quick. The apply flange insertion rule. You can specify a specific flange if you know what flanges you're using. For this particular routing, you can switch to that, or you could use the spec setting to pull the flange rate, correct flange from the spec, and so forth. A couple more that are very familiar: the auto gasket and automatic bolting, which is new in CADWorks, and pipe healing rule. These are all options that you can set to meet your needs. Okay, so let's go ahead and put in the first item on the front of these pumps, which is going to be a strainer. And the first thing to note, a strainer is directional as well, and you might note that my strainer, if I put it in on that from that connection point, it's backwards. It's going to be backwards on the pump, so I want to toggle to the other end. So now I'm putting in the strainer the right direction. Now, when I select the nozzle, it's going to the system's telling me that this size that I'm set to, which is 8-inch, is a different size than the nozzle, and asks me if I want to keep that 8-inch size, or did I really want to use the selected nozzle size. So in this case, I want to use the selected nozzle size, and then I'll turn the strainer down the direction I want. At this point, one of the really nice features of the latest version of CADWorks is I don't really have to go pull components from the spec view palette or bring up the toolbars which still exist within CADWorks. I can actually just hit the component and hit the plus grip. Now when I do that, since I have auto flange turned on, it automatically put my flange and bolt and gasket in there, which I don't want. I really want to put a ball valve here to be able to shut off this system. So I can actually do an undo just like a regular AutoCAD line command. I can do an undo, and that will get rid of the flange and bolts and gaskets and allow me to start piping directly off of that strainer. Then I can right click and go to a component list, and now I can pull my ball valve right from this component list. So this blue valve is an optional valve, which is a butt well valve. I want the standard flange ball valve. And again, it asks me if I want to keep the 8-inch size I'm set to, or do I want to use the strainer butt well flange size. I want to use the strainer size, and I'm still running pipe. So by using this component list option, you can keep putting components in the line and continue to route pipe without being interrupted. Now at this point, I actually want to right click and go to component list. This time I want to put my reducer in. I'm going to use an eccentric reducer. These are the options. The system, I don't have a reduction size set, so it's asking me which size reducer, eccentric reducer I want to use. It's showing me pretty much a list of all the reducers in the spec for my sizes, and I'll select my 8x6, and then it asks me which direction do I want the flat side. I want that up. I can do that by dragging down or just hitting the up on the command line here, either one. Alright, so, and then I continue to run pipe if I want to continue to run pipe at this point. When you're done running pipe, you can just hit enter to get out of the command. And now what I want to do is copy that piping system. I'll just use the copy window here and copy it again from a common reference point on these two pumps. Once I've copied it, it's very quick and easy to connect these two by hitting the plus grip on either reducer, and we'll use our connect option to connect it to the other reducer. And you can see there's only one way to pipe that, so instead of giving me options, the system just went ahead and put the pipe and elbows in for me.